This video is to help you understand how to use the databases. As you hopefully learned from watching the other videos, the databases are a collection of resources, mostly journal articles, magazine articles, newspaper articles, with other kinds of resources also in there depending on the type of database. These resources are preferred over just a regular internet search and the sources you would find there because these are considered more reputable. They have gone through greater standards to check for accuracy and currency of information, and thus make them more reliable. Also, there's no conflict really of interest in as much misinformation. All colleges and universities purchase subscriptions to the databases. Depending on which databases they want determines which ones each college has. At HCC, we have subscribed to a large number of databases to meet the needs of our many different students and their fields of study. To begin accessing the databases, you go to our course page in Canvas, and then on the left-hand side you will see the word HCC Libraries Online. Click on that. Once you have clicked on that, this page should appear, and then you'll click on Launch Hillsborough Community College. When that appears, you should see this page. You will notice at the top it says Databases A to Z and Databases by Subject. Depends on how you want to view them. If you're not as familiar with the names of different databases, then you should go by subject. If as you begin to use the databases more you might know particular databases you prefer, and sometimes that is easier to find in alphabetical order than by subject. For now, though, we are going to go to Databases by Subject. And when you click on it, you will see a list of all the different subjects that are listed. Under each subject, you will see a drop-down menu. If you click the plus sign, a list of databases related to that subject will appear. So as you can see, this list is quite diverse. In case you are writing about movies, books turned into movies, music, you will probably find either one of the arts and humanities databases or one of the literature databases most useful. If you're writing about something in the field of science, then you should probably check either science or health and medicine. If you're writing social sciences, more like psychology, sociology, you would want to check under social sciences. More historical events, you would want to check under the history. If it's something related to computers and technology, if it's a particular person, you might want to check under biography. But as you check under each one, get familiar. Some are better than others, so sometimes it's definitely a bit of trial and error if you're not familiar. In the literature, JSTOR is one of the best databases. I would recommend going ahead and clicking on that. The layout of each database is different as well. This is one of the more vibrant database layouts with lots of different images on the opening screen. Most are very plain with a white background. If there's an advanced search option, I always recommend beginning right away with that. So I'm going to click on advanced search. And then you would type whatever author or person. Let's say I was looking for Edgar Allan Poe. And I'm not just looking for him, I'm looking for a particular work, Cask of Amontillado. Now it's not going to bring up the source. Instead it's going to bring up articles about this work or about his writing in the Cask of Amontillado and critiques. So I can go ahead and click search. As you will see, I have 3,597 sources, which is still a lot. However, if you wrote that same thing in Google, you would have almost 3 million sources. So this is substantially less, however, still far too many for one person to look at. So we need to find more ways to narrow the database search. You can go by a sub-subject. One of the best ways is to limit the dates of publication. So maybe you want more current information from 2000 to 2017. Then you need to click Update Results. Now we're down to 489. Definitely makes it more manageable. Some other databases that we will look at have more filters through which to eliminate or narrow down your choices. If you click on the first one I see here, the motive for murder, you'll see you have a few options. Downloading the PDF, JSTOR, you don't even have to narrow. All of the articles are given in their entirety. Some other databases, it is very important to click full text document to make sure you're getting everything. But it gives you the option, you have to accept, to see it in its original format, which helps with page numbers and citations, also makes it easier to print. So this is how the article originally appeared in the Rocky Mountain Review, and it began on page 47, as you can see there. After, you have the option if you want either to save it or to print it. Another great feature of the databases is it often provides for you the works cited citations. So all I have to do is copy and paste this into my Word document, and I'll already have my works cited. And then for my embedded citations, obviously the author's last name, and then the page number, which again it helps because I have the original and each page tells me the page number. I'm going to show you one other database for now. This time I'm going to go alphabetical. In alphabetical, that if you're struggling to find sources, start with the top two A ones. These are two of the most popular sources, Academic OneFile and Academic Search Complete. So I went with Academic OneFile. Again, I'm going to type the same person here, Edgar Allan Poe, the Cask of Amontillado. And then I'm going to click search. Unfortunately, apparently that is too narrow for this database. So I'm going to take away the Cask of Amontillado and see if that helps. Okay, now I have 86 sources. That works a little better. Over here, this, as you can see, this database is laid out differently, and so it tells me the type of content. Academic journals are usually the preferred if possible. Otherwise, there's magazine and news articles, books, videos. We definitely want to, like I said before, limit by full text. Otherwise, you'll just get an excerpt of the text, and when you go to try to find it, you realize that you must contact some library and wait, and that is very time consuming. So go ahead and click full text, and that will narrow my search even more. Now I only have 50. Peer-reviewed journals, if you click that, you'll see that my academic journal is down to 29. I will caution you on peer-reviewed. You will have some faculty members that say you can only use peer-reviewed, in which case you do want to check that box. However, peer-reviewed articles are at an even higher standard and often written for the world of academics, in particular people with doctoral degrees. For this reason, the writing and the reading level are quite high, and thus can be challenging sometimes for undergraduate students, especially first or second year students. You are welcome to use those, but it is not required for my class. Other options, again, besides the type and limiting by full text or peer-reviewed, is again by publication date, type of document. Brief articles usually are 200 words or less. For what we're doing, you will not find those very useful, so an article itself would be another great way. And then again, if I click on this first article that I'm seeing, Poe's Simplicity in Blackwood's Magazine, you'll see a brief abstract and then you will see the full text. Now this one does not have it in the original, and so therefore the page numbers become quite tricky. However, you can see that on the original up here was on page 233, so that helps. Again, you have citation tools, and make sure it's MLA 8th edition, and again you could copy and paste directly into your Word document for your works cited. Let me go back to the list of sources. You will see the one I clicked did not have this option, but some have download PDF. Again, the nice feature of that is you do get the source in its original presentation and how it was first published, which gives you the page numbers easily accessible so you're not guessing. And so it'll pop up. It also makes it easier to print, and you'll see the page number usually at the bottom or top of each page. So these are great features to help you get started using our database. If you are struggling to find databases relevant to your topic, please email me and I will try to point you in the right direction. And then happy researching. Remember, you must use at least one database source in your research paper and your annotated bibliography. However, I strongly recommend that the majority of your sources come from the database. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions.